Okay, this is W1REX, and I am going to do a quickie. This is not a really long video, but I got some quick things I want to show you about getting ready for the Buildathon tomorrow. Well, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. Okay, all right, there's the transition I wanted. Couple of quick things. I normally build with my soldering station, but I am going to build this one, or this test load thing. I'm going to test this. I've worked it before. You can see it's been used on the front, but this is a Amazon purchase that I got. It's got a temperature control. I got it set at 375 degrees centigrade, which is a little over 700 degrees Fahrenheit, and got an on-off temperature adjustment. And I'm going to quickly, everybody sends sponges because sponges are cheap, but I don't like sponges because the minute you hit this tip with water, turns to steam, takes a lot of heat out of your iron. I've got a little bit of stuff. This is tip cleaner, tip tinner and cleaner. You can pick it up wherever you buy soldering supplies. I'm just going to, when I start my Buildathon, I'm just going to get a nice clean thing, and if you look at that, got a nice clean tip, nice freshly tint, and it's ready to go. They give you these cheesy little well, here's the box. Let me set this thing down. Here's the box on Amazon. Now, I'm not promoting this thing, but I mean, it's a nice little iron for 18 bucks. Comes in a box. There's the iron, extra tips. In the case of this particular Buildathon, I'm using the smallest, well, it's not really the smallest, but a very pointy conical tip. I want to be able to get in there, in amongst the pads for some of the other stuff. That's a little close together. Here's the little thing they give you, and the sponge. I throw those away and use a little bit of solder. But anyway, I mean, 18 bucks, you can't beat that. So I have an old Radio Shack that's just a little bit beefier. Has a little piece of sponge that I never use, but I like this particular arrangement a little bit better. So I'm going to set that aside because here's the pack of extra tips. And of course I got my blue. I use two of them, one with the rubber band and one without the rubber band. I've taken the spring off because it's a lot easier to work with. My nice blue flush cutters, nice and flat on one side, very sharp, ace light. Can't get any better than that. Couple of things, you know, the capacitors in here are very hard to read, even if you got really good glasses and good eyesight and stuff. So I always have a nice little magnifier. This has got a magnifier and a magnifier in a magnifier, so you can get down and really read those things. And just before I started this, I got my lens wiper and I cleaned it all off, so it's a nice clean start. When you build it, you can use, when you build the board, where is it? Okay, here's the board. You'll notice that there are no traces on the top because this is a Manhattan style, or I call it Limerick style construction. So all you basically have is the silk screen that tells you what all the things are, and on the underside you have all the components and all the leads to them. And this is the part these small pads are kind of tricky to do. But the thing about it is that you don't really need board holders because you can set that flat and you can just go right down the line and solder things. It's only when you start getting all kinds of stuff that sticks out that you can't lay that board flat. So we're going to build all the through-hole stuff on these surface mount pads first, then do the finished assembly. So I'm just going to try to get you going on that whole thing. We're going to do that, of course, tomorrow, but I just want to sort of get you started with how you can prepare. In this case, the other thing too is if you're building a tuna can kit from me, you know, it comes in a, you know, the boards come in a snap-off lid, and of course all the parts are inside the can. But when you go to build it, you know, you've got a built-in board holder right there, and you can just hold it nice, neat, and move it around. You don't really need a board holder until you start mounting things that stick off the side of the board, so then you can't put it in the case. So you always do your flat stuff and things that are not around the edge first. So we'll just put that back. But if you're not building a tuna fish can, you can still use that. Here is a couple of geisha water chestnuts. My daughter's a vegetarian. I make a lot of stir fry for her. And these cans, I open these with a safety can opener, which doesn't leave an edge. And the idea is the fact that you can set boards on that, and there's plenty of places, that you can actually go around parts and stuff. So that's pretty stable too. So we'll set those aside. We're not going to use those today. So the next thing I just want to touch on is we got an iron. We got it nice and clean. We've tinned it. I'm running mine at 700 degrees. The next thing you have to do is get all the parts sorted out. I keep telling people in the build-a-thon we have a limited amount of time, so you want to be as organized as possible. So in this case, you can do this ahead of time. Here is the bag of parts for the Station Accessories, and here's the extra bag of all the stuff that came in late. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these parts, knobs go with accessories. One of these connectors go, that goes. This is this. One of these pots is the 50K. So those are all parts that go to the, wait a minute, what's this one here? This is the amplifier, and that's the keyer chip. So now all these parts are now for the transmitter kit. If you only order the accessories, then you'll get one that's called A, I think I have, that's only the accessories. This is if you ordered both. So I'll put that aside. So I've just added those parts to this pile. So we're going to quickly open this up. I got a nice big dining room table here. My wife is out of town, so what she doesn't know. So I commandeered this table because it's got a lot more space than what I've got down in the basement. And so I'm going to sort of separate that. I'm quickly going to just get all the stuff out of the way that's easily recognizable. Get it out of the pile. In this case, I'm going to take the hardware and all the big polyvaricon capacitors. There's the nuts and bolts, washers. Here's a piece of circuit board for the key. Here's the nuts. Here's another switch. Here's another connector, a couple of sockets, a microprocessor. And so now I'm left with things that are, whoops, there's a piece of hardware. So now I'm left with this pile of stuff right here. Now here, I don't know, you might have them already clipped and you might not. In this case, I'm just going to unclip them. Throw the trash away. So these are brown, black, orange. So they are 10K resistors. So what I recommend you do is pull out like all the resistors. And make sure you know how you can identify which ones are which. You should be up on that because you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to have to learn the code while you're building. You want to have everything all nice and ready. So in this case, I'm going to mark these cut ones. Now see, I have a hard time reading those. I'm going to quickly get my magnifying glass. And on one side it says 104, which is a 0.1. On the other side, if you look, it's got some weird digits, and those weird digits are the temperature and capacitance grade, how good it is, accurate, and the voltage. So in this case, it was a 104. So I'm going to get my pen and mark 104 on it. This one right here, this one says 200 volts, blah, 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 which is on the other side, and it says 330. So this is a 330. That means 3 and a 3, and 0 zeros afterwards. So that's a 33 picofarad capacitor. I'm going to leave my thing out here and just quickly go through these parts. This one here is a 78L05. This is the 78L05. This one must be 2222. So, whoops. So I'm gonna finish those. I'm going to, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show. Now there's not that many parts here, but one of the things you can do in advance is I have a clipboard here. I can just go and mark these, so I can put these 4 here, 10K. Okay, I'll put these 2 here, and that's brown, gray, orange. So that's 18K. And here's yellow, violet, orange. That's 47K. Let's just pick another one. That's yellow, violet, red. That's 4.7K. And here's a black, brown, green. That's 1 megohm. And this one's kind of weird. It's a 1% resistor, and it's kind of hard to read. And that's what I hate about these things, is the colors they use nowadays are pretty darn crazy. Brown, black, something, red, gold. Brown, black, something, red. So 1, 0, something, 2. I do believe if you look at the parts list, this probably, I think, might be a 1K. Now, here's the case where I don't have the documents in front of me, so I can't check it. But if you check, by process of elimination, you'll probably figure out what that one is. I don't have that memorized, but if I look at the circuit board, I can probably very quickly find that it has a 10K, 4.7K. There's a 18K, 18K, 4.7K, 10K. I'm looking. 10K, 1K. Yeah, so that's probably the 1K resistor. So here's the capacitors. Here's the 104s. Here's a 103, which is 0.1 microfarad. Here's a 330. So that's a 333 microfarad. 473, so that's a 0.047 microfarad. What's this one here? Slightly bigger. Here's another one. Okay, and 334, so this is a 0.33 microfarad. And here is a 223, which is a 0.022 microfarad. And this looks like the other one right there. There's 2 of those. So we got a 78L05. 2N 7000. 2N 7000. 2222A. PN 2222A. And that's a 3804. 2N 3804. This is a 1 microfarad. 1 microfarad, and these must be the 10s. Confirm 10 microfarad. So here are all the parts. Now I did this on just on a piece of graph paper that's on my clipboard, because I can now move it around. But you can also take a piece of nice foam, or the anti-static foam you get when you get parts and stuff. You can put it on the paper, and you can you can poke holes in it. In this case, I use a one of my little dental picks I picked up at Harbor Freight, and you know, you can put the paper over it, and where you want to put a part, you can just put the 2 holes in there and stick it in a little resistor, what have you. You don't have to do that, but again, you want these parts to be where you need them. So I'm going to set this whole thing aside for now. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to do the next thing. And the next thing is, because we're doing this Manhattan style, these things all have to be shaped to put on the pads. In the case of resistors, all the resistors are 0.4 inch spacing. So what I want to do is I want to get my little handy dandy spacer out, and I'll go to the 0.4. I'll go down and make a nice 90-degree bend. One of the things I can do is, when I do that, I'll cut it with my pliers, and I'm going to be even with the bottom of this guy. I'm going to cut it right about there. And remember to put your finger over it so that lead doesn't go flying. I'll cut the next one at the same position. I'll take my little pliers and I'll just go maybe half a pliers width and make another 90-degree out and make a little foot. Okay, so now when you go and you set this thing on the board, okay, you got these little feet that sit on the pad, and if they go out at 90 degrees, this one here didn't quite make 90 degrees. Okay, at 0.4. So eventually what we're going to do, I'm going to just, hang on, I'm going to set this aside for a minute. I'm going to put it right on my computer keyboard. Oh, my 10Ks rolled off, my 10 microfarads rolled off. So we'll get the board out. Now that was yeah, I should make sure I get the right one. Oh, okay, this is out in the middle of nowhere, so that's a 1K resistor. So what I can do is I can take and clean my, remember I cleaned that quite a while ago. I'll put solder. This is how we actually build the surface mount through hole parts, Manhattan style. What I'll do is I'll put solder on one pad, and then now you can do this. See, that's my little third hand, but I'm going to take and tin one of these feet, and now I'm going to grab that baby again very easily. I'm grabbing it with my rubber band pliers, and I'm going to set that down where that solder is. Whoops, it's a little bit moved apart a little bit on me, and I'm going to let it sink right into the solder by heating it. Okay, so I can release it. And now the other side is just waiting to have solder mounted to it. And then I can just solder the other side. And there's how you build that part. Now, all this stuff here is all in the audio section, so it's not really important that you have long, or short leads, but there's a part that's been mounted, and of course there's no holes on it, so it's nice and cool on the other side. Because this basically is now your front panel of your rig. And that's all you do. So the idea is, what you can do tonight, Friday night, is you take all these, oops, come on, get all these things out of the way here. You can do the same thing. You can take your lead bender. If you don't have a lead bender, well, you gotta bend these by eyeball. So I'll just leave it on there for a minute. I'll take my cutters, and I'm lining up to the bottom of this thing, and I'm just gonna make it pretty much even. So when I take it off, I can make I'm putting it halfway through my pliers. Again, I'm trying to make them all uniform. So halfway into my pliers, bend them out at 90 degrees, and there is the 4.7K, all nice and bent. And you just go and do these with all of your parts. So there's a, oops. Now if you've been to my YouTube channel and seen the previous build-a-thons, you'll see my my tool list. And this is one of the items that's on my tool list. I've had one in my toolbox ever since I became an engineer in 1973. I still have the same one that I got when I worked for Texas Instruments. Still have it. I still have a couple of the irons too, but they don't compare with new irons. So there's my, which one was that? Oh, it was one of the 10Ks. So you go through there and you can get them all done. Once you do all the parts, here's a transistor typically, and this is what you have to do, is you can take a look at this, and these come at like 50,000 spacing, but on the board it's a 100,000 spacing. So you just have to spread them out and put them down on the pads until they sort of match. And what I do is I take all three of them. Yeah, I'll take all three of them this time and just lay that thing over like that. And now, because these are really long feet, I'll cut the feet off. So they're just short little feet. Oh, that's not quite. Short little feet. You don't want to make them longer than the pad that you have. And there you can see that it fits right on there very nicely. So this was the 3804. And you do that. Now these are already 0.2 spacing, these capacitors. 0.2 spacing. And if you look, most of these capacitors are exactly the same width as the resistors. So you have to sort of spread them out. I'm looking to see some of them have no traces underneath, so you could make them long feet and then cut them to the right thing. But you can also just take these and just get an extra bit of width. I'm doing this by eyeball because I've been doing it for so long. I'm just forming this by eye. I'll cut these feet down a little bit so they're shorter. I'm going to hold this by I want to get my hand out of the way so you can see it better. So I'm going to hold this with my gripping pliers. And you can see that thing, I don't know if I got good macro on this, but I'm going to try to, that thing fits right on those pads. Now, when I solder it, I'm going to solder it straight up. When we go to build this kit at a later, tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to start way down here and solder things in and just come right up like this, so that as you're working, you're never having to fight all those other parts, because the part you're going to be putting down is out in the open. So that's how we're going to do that. But you need to process your parts, so we don't have to do this during the build-a-thon. We've only got a couple hours, unless you want to sit there. The first one we did for QSO today, the window we had was 2 hours, and I think the video was up for about, I think the first video was like, I don't know, almost 4 hours long, because no one finished and we just kept on going. We were the last one. They never shut us down, so it went for quite a while. So again, with resistors, they're pretty easy because you got something to bend them by. And I'm just going again. I'm eyeballing it, and the only reason I eyeball is I want to make them kind of the same height. I don't want them all willy-nilly. I like to be relatively neat, so I try to make them all the same height, resistor to resistor, and try to make the feet the same size. And that looks pretty good. So here's another 10K. Now they do get a little bent up as you handle them, and so you can move them around a little bit after you get done, but they don't have to be perfect. They just have to fit the profile so you can put them down, lay them in. And when we build, we just go right down and we put, in fact, I can do this right now. I'll show you. I'll clean my iron, and we'll go down, and we're going to start. We can start this way or start this way. It doesn't make any much difference. I'm going to start here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the right hand pad, and I'm just going to put solder on all the right hand pads, or the upper pad, let's say. I mean, if it's a part going this way, I'm going to do the upper pad, and if it's a part going this way, I will do the right hand pad. And the idea is be kind of uniform about what you pick, but only do one pad for each part, because then when you lay the part, when I heat that one pad, I can put that part in and it will sink down in that solder, and the other foot will be sitting right on the pad, and then when I take the thing away and I'm holding it and you blow on it and cool it down, voila, you've got one pad, one foot that's right down at the level and the other one's touching, and you just add a little solder for the second one. It's going to go real fast. And so I'm going to prep all these. Guess what? I got a little piece of solder underneath that thing. So I'm going to, again, there's a left, right pad, right pad, right pad. I guess I'll do the top pad. And we're only talking about the parts that we're doing on this surface mount style here, these discretes. So I'm putting a good nice little dab of solder on that one pad that we're going to use as our anchor point. And that's about it. So this board is ready to solder some parts on tomorrow, pretty much. So that's what you have to do. You have to take all your parts. These are probably the weirdest parts because they're so close together and there's only 2 pins. So you do the exact same thing. You pull them out. I like to set my parts at, you know, 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch off the board. So you just sort of spread those out, make it nice and even, and then maybe a little bit more height. These things, what are these set at? 10 microfarad. Let's find the spot where there's 10 microfarad. There's a 1 microfarad there, and it's at 0.42. So we do have to spread them out to 0.4. So I'll add a little bit extra there. And of course you can rebend these, but you want to try to get it right the first time. And I'll add the little feet on the ends. I have a little creation that helps bend these things, but they haven't come out of my source yet, so I couldn't help you with these. But it just takes a little bit of experience. Now here's where this one goes right there, and it's just perfect. So there's the 1 microfarad. You just do all the parts, so you have them ready. And tomorrow when we start to build this board, you'll be able to find exactly the part you need. It's pre-bent, and we're going to solder all the pads first, and you lay them down, and this thing's going to go like a dream. So I predict we'll be over in 2 hours. If you believe that. I have some swampland here in Limerick I'd like to part with and get some traveling money. Let's see, what did I cover? I covered prepping the parts, organizing them, bending them, iron nice and clean, get it ready before you start, have it so you know, get your whole setup ready so that we don't have to screw around with that. I don't think you're going to need a board holder, but when all these things are all soldered in and you have to do stuff, there's nothing that has to be soldered on the top side. It has to be worked a little bit, you know, this mounted and a couple of things mounted, but for the most part, oh yeah, we got some connectors here we got to mount on the top. So maybe it would be handy to have a couple of, you know, some sort of a rasp or a couple of cans that you can do this with. But I'm sure, or just a couple of pieces of 2x4 or any kind of thing, just to hold it up off the thing when you start putting some board, see, we got these connectors here. This one goes over here. Okay, and we got another one that goes here. Oops. We got another one that goes here. Now on your board, you're going to find a couple of holes drilled right here. And this guy, this last one is going to go right in the, I believe in the, it's going to go in the right two holes, I believe. We'll get to that tomorrow. And here's your paddle connector. So those all, and then of course those have to be turned over, and you're going to do them one at a time. But you can also do something like, it's an envelope. Lay that down, turn it over, and well, this one fell off. So anyway, but we'll get to that tomorrow. Big important thing is that you prep all your parts so they're ready to go. You dry fit them to make sure they fit on the holes. Don't worry about soldering those yet, but just make sure that they fit on the pads comfortably and the little feet aren't sticking out too far. Have your tools ready. You know, good lighting. I got overhead light, and I got 3 more LED lights here from my shooting studio. Parts all laid out, ready to roll, and we'll get right into it and build ourselves a complete set of station accessories. That's it for today. I'm going to turn this thing off and see if I can get it posted and get it out to you. Bye for now. This is W1REX signing off. Okay. Stop recording. All right. Yes.